Welcome to Legacy Uncovered, where we expose the hidden stories you can't find anywhere else on the internet. The untold lives of children born into fame, raised in its shadow, and often silenced by the charm of the legend who fathered them. Today's subject is a man who was once the face of American comedy, a reluctant icon, and later a ghost drifting between genius and myth. Bill Murray. His voice made us laugh. His silences made us wonder. But behind the dry wit and cult status lies a quieter story. One not told in interviews or award speeches, the story of 6 sons, born across 2 marriages, raised in the margins of brilliance, and each forced to find their way through absence, myth, and the meaning of a father who never stayed too long. This is the story of Bill Murray and what happened to each of them. Homer Murray, the chef who chose quiet over chaos. Homer Murray is born in 1982, a full 2 years before Ghostbusters cements his father as a pop culture legend. At that moment, Bill Murray is already rising fast from Saturday Night Live fame to big screen comedic dominance, but fatherhood is a new, quieter role. With his first wife, Margaret Mickey Kelly, Bill welcomes Homer into a world already tilting toward Hollywood chaos. They live in Los Angeles for a time, then move east. The marriage is private, almost quiet by industry standards, but the cracks are early. As Bill films Stripes, Tootsie, and then Ghostbusters, Homer spends much of his early childhood learning his father's face through posters and VHS tapes more than through dinner-time stories. Still, the Murray name carries its own gravitational pull. Classmates notice, teachers smile differently. By the late 1980s, Bill's stardom is ubiquitous, and so is his absence. Interviews and colleagues from that era recall him as brilliant but distant traits that didn't vanish when the camera stopped. At home, the Murray household begins to stretch thin, Mickey and Bill separate quietly, with Homer and his younger brother Luke remaining mostly with their mother. The divorce is finalized in 1996 when Homer's already a teenager, but by then, he's long understood that his family was structured around gaps, emotional and geographical. What's unusual is that Homer doesn't lash out. He doesn't seek a spotlight of his own or attempt to shadow his father's career. Instead, he turns inward into food. After high school, Homer attends Bard College in New York, exploring music and culinary arts before committing to the kitchen. It's not rebellion, just redirection. While Bill is busy transforming his image through roles in Rushmore and Lost in Translation, Homer is learning the rhythm of prep lines, knife work, and inventory. In 2016, Homer opens 21 Greenpoint, a restaurant tucked into a quiet Brooklyn corner. It's immediately well regarded by locals, seasonal, relaxed, unfussy. The buzz is organic. Food blogs mention it not because of celebrity lineage, but because the food holds its own. In classic Murray fashion, Bill shows up unannounced one night to bartend, his way of saying, "Well done." Maybe cameras roll, patrons laugh, and Homer. He keeps his head down, plating food behind the scenes, immune to the circus. Their relationship, though rarely public, seems built on a kind of unspoken respect. Homer avoids interviews that probe too personally, often deflecting questions about his father with good-natured brevity. Bill, for his part, once referred to his son's work as a real restaurant. No joke. But they are not sentimental men, and theirs is not a sentimental connection. It's a rhythm of long pauses, light nods, and the occasional game night appearance at Madison Square Garden. Homer's life stands as an understated counterpoint to the extremes of Hollywood legacy. He chose to live not as the son of a comedic icon, but as a craftsman in his own right. And maybe that's the most compelling detail of all, not what he inherited, but what he quietly refused to imitate. Luke Murray, the strategist, who built his own court. Luke Murray is born in 1985, the same year Mad Dog and Glory is in pre-production, and Bill Murray is everywhere. Talk shows, movie sets, photo ops. But at home in upstate New York, things are already fraying. Bill and Mickey Kelly are still married, but barely. Their first son, Homer, is 3. Luke arrives into a house marked by absence more than presence. Bill is on the road, chasing scripts and rewrites. Mickey is the stable one. Luke, even as a toddler, absorbs this quietly. He's focused, introspective, different. While Homer leans into creativity, Luke gravitates to structure. In school, he stands out not for his last name, but for his discipline. He falls in love with basketball early, drawn not just to the game, but to the systems that make it work. Defensive rotations, playbooks, coaching trees. He doesn't care much about Hollywood. He doesn't even talk about his father much. When Bill stars in Groundhog Day, Luke is already filling notebooks with drills and lineups. His world is the gym. The divorce comes in 1996. Bill moves on quickly, soon remarrying costume designer Jennifer Butler. Luke is 11, but old enough to understand that distance in the Murray family isn't an accident, it's a rhythm. Instead of acting out, he doubles down on control. After graduating from Fairfield University, he starts coaching first as an assistant at Quinnipiac, then gradually rising through respected programs: Rhode Island, Xavier, Louisville. By 2021, he joins UConn as assistant coach. That season, the Huskies begin their rise back to national prominence, and Luke earns a reputation as one of the sharpest minds in college basketball. Throughout it all, he keeps his name low. Interviews are rare. He avoids speaking about his father, except in passing. He did what he did. I do what I do. He once said flatly, and yet there's a strange mirror between them. Both command rooms, both thrive under pressure, both value precision over emotion. The difference? Bill thrives in chaos. Luke creates order. They've been seen together only a handful of times, usually at basketball games. Never at film events. It's not estrangement, just space, deliberate space. Luke built his career not because of his name, but in spite of it. And in that choice, he didn't reject his father. He refined him. Caleb Murray, the fire that couldn't stay contained. Caleb Murray is born in 1993, born into a second marriage that feels, at first, like a fresh start. Bill Murray has remarried costume designer Jennifer Butler after years of distance from his first family. With Groundhog Day behind him and Rushmore on the horizon, he's transitioning from slapstick to serious, a shift mirrored in his personal life. The house in South Carolina is quieter, greener, further from LA tabloid noise Jennifer designs for film sets. Bill takes selective roles, and Caleb, their first child together, becomes a symbol of that second act, slower, more domestic, seemingly more grounded. But beneath the surface, patterns repeat. Bill is often gone, shooting in Europe or chasing awards season buzz. Jennifer holds the household together. Caleb, artistic and sensitive from a young age, watches his parents drift. While his father's face is projected on screens in Lost in Translation and The Life Aquatic, Caleb retreats into sketch pads, journals, and eventually rage. He's described by those who knew him as intelligent but volatile. The kind of kid who feels everything too loudly in a house where emotions are rarely addressed. By 2008, when Bill and Jennifer's marriage collapses in public, complete with allegations of infidelity, emotional abuse, and substance issues, Caleb is a teenager. The divorce papers name him and his siblings directly. Jennifer wins primary custody. Bill, in true Murray form, fades from the narrative. The children stay in the South. Caleb's adolescence unfolds away from cameras, but not without consequence. He brushes against the law more than once, culminating in a publicized 2020 arrest during a protest in Martha's Vineyard. He is charged with assault, resisting arrest, and making terrorist threats. A chaotic scene made even messier by his last name. Most charges are later dropped. The deeper story is less about politics, more about a young man unraveling in public, while the public mostly looks away. There's no record of Bill visiting or commenting. No statement, no denial, no defense. Just silence. It's unclear if father and son speak now. But those close to Caleb describe him as deeply hurt, but still hoping for something from his dad. Acknowledgement. Maybe unlike his older brothers, Caleb didn't grow up with echoes of Bill's prime. He was born into the fallout, into the space between reinvention and retreat. He hasn't pursued acting or public life, Some say he writes, others say he paints. What's clear is that Caleb carries a weight the others didn't, being the first child of a second marriage that promised change, but delivered repetition. And in that quiet truth, his story becomes the most haunting of all. Jackson Murray, the son who stepped out of frame. Jackson Murray is born in 1995, at a time when his father's career is entering a strange, almost mythical phase. Bill Murray is no longer the Saturday Night Live comedian or the Ghostbusters icon. He's the unpredictable, hard-to-reach genius who appears in films when he feels like it and disappears without warning. While Bill stars in Kingpin and then pivots toward indie projects like Rushmore, Jackson spends his early years far from Hollywood, growing up in Charleston, South Carolina, surrounded by woods, art books, and the silence of a father who's both everywhere and nowhere at once. He is the second child from Bill's marriage to Jennifer Butler, a costume designer who once dressed him on the set of Groundhog Day. For a while, they try to create something different, a life where their sons don't carry the same chaos that colored Bill's first marriage. Jackson grows up alongside his older brother Caleb and younger siblings Cooper and Lincoln. The family avoids red carpets, rarely grants interviews, and seems committed to privacy. But even inside that silence, Jackson becomes distinct. Where Caleb struggles with volatility and Cooper blends into the background, Jackson watches everything. He is reserved, introspective, and oddly elusive even as a boy from an early age. He's drawn to imagery, photography, composition, film in theory if not in practice. He reportedly attends a private preparatory school in Massachusetts, where he avoids conversations about his father and doesn't use his last name unless necessary. Teachers remember him as creative but guarded. Friends say he liked working behind the camera, not in front of it. He never posts publicly, never seeks credit, and seems to treat visibility like a liability. While Bill appears in the Royal Tenenbaums and Lost in Translation, Jackson stays home, quietly sketching out his own identity in the shadows. By 2008, when Bill and Jennifer's marriage publicly collapses in a bitter divorce, Jackson is 13, old enough to feel the impact, too young to escape it. The court filings are brutal. Jennifer alleges drug abuse, physical abandonment, and emotional outbursts. While the tabloids focus on Bill's eccentricities, Jackson retreats further inward. Family friends describe a shift in him. During this time, he becomes more private, more withdrawn. A teenager who doesn't rebel, doesn't act out, but simply detaches. Unlike his older half-brothers Homer and Luke, who carve out public careers in hospitality and college basketball, or even Caleb, whose arrest years later brings an unwanted spotlight, Jackson avoids public life altogether. No verified social media, no interviews, no creative credits linked to his name. He's reportedly continued pursuing visual storytelling, photography, or design, but always under the radar. His choice seems not born of fear, but of resolve. In a family where the Murray name has meant attention, chaos, or projection, Jackson chooses to mean nothing. He doesn't lean into the legacy or push against it. He sidesteps it entirely. The only public image that surfaces of him in adulthood is from a golf tournament, where he's seen walking alongside Bill Tall, silent, hands in his pockets. He doesn't smile for the camera. He doesn't look uncomfortable. Just unreadable. It's a photo that offers no story except this: he was there. That's all we know, and probably all he once known. If Homer took the name and built a business, and Luke took the focus and built a team, Jackson took the distance and built a boundary. His story isn't about failure or success. It's about quiet resistance. The choice to exist without being seen, to witness everything and say nothing. And in a family like the Murrays, that might be the most radical move of all. Cooper Murray, the middle child who vanished gently. Cooper Murray is born in 1997, just as Bill Murray is stepping deeper into his indie film transformation. While Rushmore earns cult praise and The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou looms on the horizon, Bill splits his time between Wes Anderson sets and the quiet marshlands of South Carolina, where he lives with Jennifer Butler and their 4 young sons Cooper, is the third positioned between the temperamental Caleb and the much younger Lincoln from the start. He seems to glide under the radar, not shy, not rebellious, just steady, quiet, and self-contained. Home life is a patchwork. Jennifer, creative and structured, manages the day-to-day. Bill is present in flashes, sudden bike rides, spontaneous laughter, and then long stretches of absence. Cooper learns early not to depend on rhythm. He adapts by staying neutral. While Caleb grows more volatile and Jackson turns inward, Cooper becomes the easy one. He does well in school, avoids attention, and rarely talks about who his father is. When classmates ask, he shrugs. Teachers remember him as thoughtful but distant someone who listened more than he spoke. He develops interest in writing and technology, though never publicly. He plays sports casually, takes photos, sketches. Everything he does, he keeps to himself. Even in family settings, Cooper remains in the background, never the loudest in the room, never the one in trouble. When Bill's fame flares again with Lost in Translation and Broken Flowers, Cooper is quietly watching from the living room, uninterested in the red carpets